Oh, good evening, everybody. Sunday evening. Um, just another update on my Dervish forces. I've just finished, it's around about 25 figures, emirs and regular troops. And I got my flags from Maverick Miniatures, and I'm not at all sure that some of the flags may well be upside down, but they look kind of okay anyway. And got a got a gun crew there, Egyptian army gun crew. Apparently the dervishes, when some of the Egyptian armies met with terrible defeats early on in the campaigns, they didn't kill everybody. They used some of the troops who could be of help to them. They captured obviously all the artillery, and they needed somebody to fight the guns, and it tended to be the poor old Egyptians used to be pressed into service, and what I've done there is to replicate the way they used to be chained to the guns, because they obviously had a habit of trying to flee whenever possible. Just some modelling chain, in particularly for model trains actually, but I've draped it around their ankles and attached it to a spear, and then the other part of the chain is attached to the artillery piece. They're not going anywhere. The uniforms, I've tried to sort of make them as grubby as possible. Apparently the troops obviously had to convert to Islam, and they weren't very well regarded by either side really, except in their professional abilities. As I say, so the officer's got a winter jacket. One of the other soldiers has somehow acquired a grubby pair of winter trousers. The gun came up quite well. The basing again was quite pleased with. The other figures, as I say, the flags by Maverick Miniatures tend to be a bit fiddly to get this right. Yeah, you know, you've got to put on PVA glue first, and cut them out once the cotton-like fabric is stiffened, and then completely drench them in PVA glue again. Put them round the spear or shaft, and then attach the actual flag to the shaft with some super glue. And I was getting into a bit fumbling going on there with the trying. I ended up near enough sticking my fingers to the figure. As I say, I'm not altogether certain that some of these are not upside down, but at this scale, it's not entirely terrible. It kind of reasonably passes muster. The figures I think are always very good in cloth, although they are a little bit of extra trouble to get sorted. But as I say, the figures again, the flesh tone was like a dark wood grain, thinned, and then a bit of a black wash over the top of that, and famous green flag here was one of the more well-known Dervish emblems. If that's not picking up really, but it does look quite realistic. And again, a gloss varnish followed by an army painter anti-shine matte varnish, which seems to bring them back to the effect that I want. I did dry brush over the white a little bit, because I'd put a wash on first, and you tend to see the dervishes, they look as if they've just come out of a washing machine advert. They're pristine. I'm not sure that was entirely the case in reality, but it looked a little bit better when I freshened them up a little bit. They were looking altogether too grubbier as I'd originally done them. So I'm filling out these little bases now. They're essentially like wood bases and wooden trays, about the size of 1p pieces. We've got the rifleman over the back there, and as I say, some emirs and higher ranking troops. Some more of the flags that you can see there, and as I say, the gun crew, I thought I'd throw in an Egyptian gun crew to even things up a little bit, given the British one sort of, I think it's a screw gun actually. I think this is a 9-pounder, as would have been taken from the Egyptian armies, but overall quite pleased. And now I'm just looking at doing the about 14 Dervish horsemen and 7 Dervish camels to give the overall effect of a Dervish army on the move. The book is The Last Charge, which I mentioned before. It's there is a range of books with superb, absolutely superb colour illustrations, and as you can see on the front cover there, that it basically gives a regimental history of the 17th, 21st Lancers, and it's quite a rare book now. Some of the others in the range were Zulu, the story of Izamwana and Rorke's Drift, and there's one on the northwest frontier, and there's also one on Monte Cassino. They are very, very beautifully illustrated books. I can just show you the artwork section, but they're quite comprehensive, detailed description of the charge in minute detail, and the rest of the book is an overall view of the campaign right up until the Battle of Omdurman and the British going into Khartoum. The illustrations are fairly detailed, some good colours there, well realised. I think it's certainly a good book to have. I mean, it's not specific to the Gordon Relief Expedition, but it's quite a good history of the regiment, and you know, it's quite a nice book to pick up if you can. As I say, I also have the Zulu one, which of course is, I mean, it's a terrific book and quite detailed. And yeah, you can also pick up The River War by Winston Churchill, in which he describes the campaign. And yeah, overall, very decent book, and a good addition to my sort of Sudan War library. But as I say, closing to the end of this collection now, and only got about 21 mounted figures to go. So I think for the very first time I actually am in danger of completing a project, and I'm glad to do so actually. En masse they look quite pleasing, if I say so myself, and question is, as always, what do you do next? I suppose something will come up, some TV program or film, or put the seed of enthusiasm in my head. But at the moment I've still got a fair bit of work in front of me, and you know, happy to show them to you, and I hope you like them, and I hope you're all doing well in your own projects. Thank you very much. Goodbye.